Hello everyone, this is Lord Osiron here coming at you, and this is going to be a video that has been a long time in the making. I've been planning on making this video for a long time. I just haven't known how I wanted to present it, and I'm using the board from the last video I made about the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, and there's a lot of correlations to this that are going to fit this theme perfectly, okay? And the theme of discussion here might trigger some people because the topic it goes against the norms of what we consider normal cultural norms in society, okay? But I'm going to show you because the attack on humanity attacks the culture and attacks men and women individually because, and this is also going to show a practical application of the single digit code and how it actually applies to the real world. I have a couple of videos a couple of recent videos in the binary cube matrix series that show practical applications of the single digit code, but this is going to be another real world application about this, okay? So here's the true tree of life again, and there's something I want to comment on right now about this because this is very important to the theme we're going to be discussing, okay? This lower half is what I call the true tree of life, and this is basically it's a fractal expression of number 3. What is a cube but 3 dimensions, height, width, and depth, okay? So it starts out in the bottom with the 3, height, width, and depth, and the next level is 12, okay? This middle one is 12, and that is also a cube, okay? And then the next level is 21, and that is also a cube, okay? So this is basically the fractal expression of a cube, okay? And now, this is also going to correlate to one of the themes I will talk about today is about the nature of human beings and their fractal expressions of the physical body, okay? So the human being has 3 basic fractals of their body, but they only really know about one of them, or they're only encouraged to think about one of them, and that is the individual, okay? But it really goes beyond that. So if we call the bottom here the individual, the next fractal level of the body is the family body. So the next level is the family. So your immediate family and your blood relatives are the next level, okay? But now the next level after that is the racial body, or your blood, or your people. I'm going to try to refrain from using the R word because if I say it too much, I could get banned on this platform. So I'm just going to use from now on, instead of the R word, I'm going to use blood or your people or some other euphemism for race, but that's what I'm talking about, okay? So you have your individual family, your individual body, your family body, and then you have your blood body or your people body here. And then if these are all working in harmony, they produce what is now expressed as Malkuth as your basic civilization, okay? So if these are all working healthy and in harmony, they build a healthy, strong civilization, and that's how that works. But if you see, in recent decades, we've been taught to disregard the family body. I'm sorry, the racial. I'm just going to say race. Fuck it. We've been taught to disregard the idea of race. You know, because Marxist academia teaches us that we're all the same. We all evolved from primates, and we're all the same, which is ridiculous. Okay, and then in even more recent years, we've been taught to forget about the family. So now all the attention is on just your individual self without any regard for your family or your blood or your people, okay? And that is extremely toxic and self-destructive and leads to neurosis. You wonder why people are insane? Because they have no purpose for life, okay? They have no purpose for living because they've been taught to forget about their blood, they've been taught to forget about their family and focus all their attention on themselves. And that is just ridiculous because the individual dies, and the next fractal level is the family, and that can potentially live forever in scope to the individual. And then the blood, the racial body, can even live longer than that if you care for it. If you care for it. You have to care for all these things as if it was your body, because if your body's not cared for, then because it's like a cell. Like your individual body is made up of billions of individual cells. Well, it's the same thing with this fractal evolution. Your individual self is just one cell in your family, and your family is just one cell in the greater racial blood body. Okay, and these all need to be cared for, and properly maintained, and they have to have the appropriate level of respect to go along with them. Okay, so And there's different levels of interaction with the human, okay? Now, people on an individual level can exist. I mean, you don't need to think about your family or your racial body in most everyday interactions, okay? Your everyday interactions on an individual level can easily take the form of what's called a meritocracy. So individual interactions, you don't need to have race included or family or race included in most everyday interactions. The only thing you have to be mindful of is if you take action that does harm to your family or your blood body, okay? If you do that, then there's a problem. But in most normal everyday interactions, you can just interact with anybody of any race without any concern for that. You just deal with them on an individual, personal level. And if they're good people, you treat them well. The only exception would be is if you start doing things that compromise your family and your blood. That's when you have problems, okay? Okay, so that's that. So we're getting to this. Now the next level is very important. It's the sexual relationship between men and women. And remember, this is how the single-digit code is expressed in the real world, okay? And if you watch the binary cube matrix, you know that the single digits are all offset with their matches. You got 1 through 9, then 8 through 1, and they're offset. 1 and 8, 2, 7 are joined, and 4, 5, 3, 6 are all counterbalanced, okay? Well, we're going to see how this plays out in human sexuality and expression, okay? So I've broken down the individual life of the woman and the boy and the girl, or the man and the woman, or whatever, into two groupings. Because remember, the single-digit code at its root level has 2 phases, 0 through 18. Okay, so each segment of your life, we could say, is broken down in 18-year increments. So we have 0 through 18 is your childhood and adolescence, where you're developing. Okay, and then your next level of 18 through 36 is where you're going to be your most productive and most powerful, okay? And this is a very important time of life, and we're doing something with men and women in the mating process that is highly destructive. And I'm going to show you what that is. And if you look at the natural, now there's a term called sexual marketplace value, and this is going to reveal the truth of the nature of men and women in just this, okay? Now that term, sexual marketplace value, I heard it, I'm pretty sure, from Coach Red Pill. I'm not sure where he got it, but sexual marketplace value is exactly what it sounds like. Your sexual marketplace value. Now women get all this sexual marketplace value front-loaded at 18. It's actually younger, but we're going to use 18, okay? So women get all this sexual marketplace value at 18, and it diminishes over time, okay? Now men don't have this thing. It's the exact opposite. Men, when they turn 18, have no sexual marketplace value because they're not tested, they're not proven, they're not developed, they're just completely untested. That, men need to prove themselves, okay, over time. So in this phase for men between 18 and 36, that's where you prove yourself to become a man, okay? And there's a thing about, anyone who watches human beings and interactions are going to know that most women prefer older men. There's even a term that angry incels have created called daddy issues, like a girl with daddy issues, because a young, hot girl is going to almost always gravitate to older men. But it's not really necessarily the older man she's gravitating to. She's gravitating to the man that is already established, the man who has his shit together, who can provide her what she wants and needs, okay? And that's really what she's after. But this man, the man at 18, doesn't have this thing. So what we have here in these crossed lines is you have the woman with her highest sexual marketplace value, and then the man at 36 is going to, by the time a man is 36 or greater, he's going to have established his sexual marketplace value as a provider for the woman. So these are the two that match up. Because the current theme with individuals and sexuality is men and women go through 0 to 18 and develop, and then they're paired up with a man and a woman of the same age. And that is disastrous, because the woman has everything that she has her high sexual marketplace value, and she's paired up with a man who's untested and unproven, and he's nothing. And that is destructive. And by the time he does prove himself, then she's a different woman, because each phase of your life you change. Like the woman at 18, by the time she reaches 36, is not the same woman. As a matter of fact, in the link, I'm going to provide a video from a channel from a guy called Ronin Man, and this is a video where he talks about marriage and why you should never get married. But you have to keep in mind when you watch this video that he's talking about marriage, how it's practiced in today's perverse world. So what happens is, you got the people who go from 0 through 18, the men and women. Then when they turn 18, both men and women are encouraged to focus on college and careers, okay? And then by the time they reach, their 30s, that's when they're getting married and having children. And they change then. And a woman should have already had her kids in that time, all of her kids in that time. Because a woman's sole purpose, main purpose in existence is to raise children. So we're doing a huge disservice to women by encouraging women to focus on careers and education over children. That's the exact opposite of what we need to be doing. Women should be focusing on children first, and then after they have their children, when they get to their 30s and stuff, that's when they can focus on education and then any career they might want to develop. Because women gain wisdom through raising children. That's how women become wise. Women need children in the family they create, and women who don't have that later in life almost always regret it, and they're miserable bitches, really. So women need the families and the children that they create, so that's their purpose. And a man gains wisdom through fighting the trials to become a good man. Okay, so this is very important. So now what happens is, so in the phases of life from 0 to 18, you're raised by your traditional parents, your mother and father, okay? And then when you turn 18, what should happen, but it doesn't, but what should happen, remember this is the idealistic viewpoint here. What should happen is the man and the woman get what is called their second parents, or what I'm calling their second parents. Okay, so when they reach this 18 level, they get their second parents. And it's going to be their sexual teachers. Because one thing we have to understand is men and women both need to be trained in sexuality. This idea of letting men and women just fucking learn the sexual, like the ways of sexual expression, like accidentally and randomly, is extremely toxic and extremely dangerous, as we see in the world today. So what happens at 18 is the woman and the man both get their second parents, and these are going to be the sexual instructors for them, okay? Now, for the woman, her next level of parent is going to be her husband, okay? So when she turns 18, actually younger, it's actually going to be 16, because sweet 16 basically means that a woman's ready to start having children. That's what that means. So, but we're going to say 18 just for this. So when a woman turns 18, she's going to be paired with her husband, the man that she's going to have children with. And then during these 18 to 36 years, she's going to be spitting out her fucking kids, and she should be having at least 4 to 6 kids, at least, in this time, okay? And then, now here's the thing, because you're probably thinking, okay, if the older man, if the 18-year-old girl is paired with an older man who's already stable and has his shit together, how does the 18-year-old man, like, who's going to teach him? Who's going to teach him about sex and how to become the man, okay? This is where it changes, okay? Now the woman, after she goes through these 18 years, or 18 to 36, the older woman who's now going to be cougar age, is going to be allowed to go back to these younger men and train them sexually. So these older cougars, these older women who have already had their kids, they already established their families and all this stuff, they're going to be permitted to go to the younger men and sexually train them to become the man that will be good enough to get the young woman, okay? So the older man guides the young woman, raises the children, so he's going to teach her about that. And the older woman now, who's had all the children, is going to go back in turn, teach this young whelp, who doesn't know shit, who's a fucking retard, how to be a good quality man, who's now, and then by the time he reaches 36, he's going to be a viable candidate to take on the younger woman and have children with her. Okay? And this is how it goes. But the thing is, you have to be able to but you have to understand something too, because you're probably thinking, oh, that guy's going to be a cuck if he does that. That's not the truth. Because what's going to happen, this guy who's 36, who has this young 18-year-old girl, actually younger, 16, he's going to be paired with his wife then. By the time they reach 36, that fucking love spell is going to be long gone. It's not going to be the sexual thing, the love spell is not going to be there anymore. Anyone who knows that is that over time, that's just not going to be there. So by the time that happens, she's going to be like in her horniest. Like women get hornier in the 30s. We all heard this, and she's going to be ready to go back to the 18-year-old boy and teach him how to be the man who is a good quality man to get her when she was younger. So it's a cross-reference, it's a cross thing, and they each teach each other. And there's also one other aspect to this that goes into the idea of men and women, like females being the one and the men being the two, because women have one man who are going to father all their children. But men are going to be permitted to have multiple wives. You know, because the strongest man, because this is a fact. Now, women are going to hate this, but the fact is that a man is strongest with multiple women. So the more women that a man has, the stronger a man he's going to be. So the man is going to be permitted to have multiple wives, okay, as long as he can provide for them. Because remember, these women are going to be provided for. Like women aren't going to be focusing on careers. Women are going to be focusing on raising and keeping families together, because that's what women do. Women raise children, but they are the glue that hold families together. It's women who keep families together, and that's a vitally important role. Because remember, we're talking about the level, the individual, the family level, and then the racial level. If these are all working in harmony, the kingdom they create is a beautiful, healthy, well-maintained civilization. If these aren't in harmony, the civilization you create is hell, like the world we live in today. Okay, this is very important to do that. So when you understand how that works, and the nature of that is very important. And some people might be thinking, oh, where's all the love in the marriage? You have to understand something. Marriage has... Spanky, quiet! Marriage has nothing to do with love. Marriage only is about raising children. Love, if you're in love with a person, that's fantastic. But that's not the goal of marriage. Marriage is only for creating children, and marriage should only be allowed for specifically creating children only. Okay? And that's it. So this idea of gay marriage, or people getting married just because they want to get fucking married, is ridiculous. Spanky, I said shut up. Sorry about that. Okay, now, so that's that. Now I want to read you a quote right now, because people talk about eugenics. People have a knee-jerk reaction to think eugenics is a bad thing, but it's really not. And I'm going to read you a quote from Nikola Tesla on this topic. The year 2100 will see eugenics universally established. In past ages, the law governing the survival of the fittest roughly weeded out the less desirable strains. Then man's new sense of pity began to interfere with the ruthless workings of nature. As a result, we continue to keep alive and to breed the unfit. The only method compatible with our notions of civilization in the race is to prevent the breeding of the unfit by sterilization and the deliberate guidance of the mating instinct. Several European countries and a number of states in the American Union sterilize the criminal and the insane. This is not sufficient. The trend of opinion among eugenicists is that we must make marriage more difficult. Certainly no one who is not a desirable parent should be permitted to produce progeny. A century from now, it will no more occur to a normal person to mate with a person eugenically unfit than to marry a habitual criminal. This is Nikola Tesla, okay? And that is very important and very powerful to understand. Because in the current model that we use, like when we're pairing 18 and 18-year-olds, like a majority of the pregnancies are accidental pregnancies. Okay, that is just ridiculous. You can't have that. Okay, so by doing it this way, because this man is already established, this man who's 36 has a home, he has a house, he has strong his finances are already proven, he's already proven, he's a proven man. He has proven that he is fit to get the younger girl, and that's exactly what he does. Okay, and then by the time the woman reaches 36, when she's, as people in the PUA community call the wall, when she's hit the wall, she's ready for cougar mode, and she's ready to start teaching this young guy how to be the proper man. And this is very important, because so it's not going to be a case of having an incel, because if you wait till later in life and get married, like people are getting married in their 30s, and if you watch that Ronin Man video, he explains all this. Like, but by the time that happens, that is very toxic, and it's very toxic results. So the disturbance in the nature of humanity is because we're not properly utilizing the sexual relationship between men and women, and we're violating the rules of the single digit code as I show in the other videos. So if we adopt these principles and these attitudes, we will produce strong individuals, which will in turn produce strong families, which will in turn produce a strong, healthy race. Okay? And when all these are in harmony, the civilization created will be strong, healthy, and prosperous. These all need to work together. It's a must. It has to work this way. I'm going to end this video now because there's more I want to cover in this, but I'll just have to save that for another video because this video is getting long and I want to keep it short and sweet and focus on the topic. But there's a lot more going on with this that I want to explain and whatnot. So thank you and namaste.